Today, I want to talk about the experience I had doing a 36-hour fast. Welcome to the Pillow Talk podcast, except it's just Kai in bed yapping. The vibe here is that point of a sleepover where you're just lying in bed and things get really sad or funny or political, anything extreme, that's the goal. So, enjoy. It was actually supposed to be a 3-day fast, so it was supposed to be 72 hours. But I couldn't make it past the 36-hour mark, and I gave myself some grace, I guess, because it was my first time fasting for that long. Like the only thing I've ever done is it's intermittent fasting. Um, and if you want to know more about fasting, you can check out a previous video where I've spoken about this. But um, I am going to give you a little bit of the basics in this episode as well. But I did go more in depth in a different video, so check that out if you're interested in the in-depth chat. But yeah, so the reason I wanted to do a 72-day 72 day, oh my goodness, a 72-hour fast or 3 days is because physiologically it is so good for you. Like your body goes through so much cleansing when you're fasting because you're no longer consuming, so your body isn't focused on like digesting and storing that. It's more focused now, like because there's nothing coming in, it's almost like it has this gap to flush out anything that no longer is needed, and then it also just uses what's stored. So when it's using what's stored, so like your fat stores for energy and stuff, eventually that isn't good enough anymore, so then it starts like creating its own energy, and in that a lot of breakdown of toxic cells happens, or autophagy. Sorry, sometimes when I say that word, it sounds so weird. Autophagy or autophagy. I'm not really sure the best way to say that, but anyway, yeah, and autophagy is like it. It doesn't happen in our daily life. Obviously, it happens, I think, at a minimal level, but you get the best autophagy action after 48 hours of fasting. Then it like peaks, and it apparently peaks for like another until it's like 72 hours. Um, But apparently, like, it starts after, I think, 18 hours or something. But I think the peak is after like 48 hours. The reason autophagy is so important is because, like, a lot of diseases happen when you have, like, this backup of diseased cells that aren't getting cleared up. Your cells get damaged when just experiencing stress. And stress can look like exposure to UV rays, a lot of processed sugar, smoke, that kind of stuff. And it basically messes up your genetics, your epigenetics, and yeah, that can lead to damaged cells that like aren't functioning properly and stuff like that. As we all know, that can lead to cancer. So that's like one of the biggest examples, obviously, but I'm pretty sure there are more. Um, so to me, doing that like once a year is really important. And so I wanted to, well, once a year is the minimum, I think. Obviously, it would be so cool to do it more than that, but for me, I'm making it a thing to at least do it annually, once annually. So I've started like scheduling it in my year because I also go way more in depth into the timing of it in my other video, but the timing is important because there's just so many factors that you don't want to ruin the experience or whatever. So I timed it and I did it, I think 2 weeks ago. Maybe it was last week. Yo, guys, my concept of time have been so bad lately. But anyway, the experience was not what I expected at all. Like, firstly, I thought it was going to be so much more difficult. And I know you're probably thinking, what the fuck? Like, you gave up. Clearly, it was difficult. But actually, in the first day, it wasn't that bad. Like, when you know you're not going to eat, the feeling of hunger, it's actually kind of easy to ignore. It comes in waves. You feel the hunger and then it goes away. And that's how hunger works in the body. Like, from what I remember, your brain releases ghrelin, which is the hunger hormone. And the thing is, this doesn't remain being released when you don't eat. It releases, and then when you don't eat, your body's like, okay, and then it like stops releasing this hormone. So it literally comes in waves. It's a biological thing, and you can learn to ignore that. Because sometimes ghrelin also isn't just when you're hungry. Like, sometimes when you want to eat but you're not actually hungry. So that's why sometimes it's important to ignore your feeling of hunger, because sometimes it isn't a need. sometimes your body's just like, oh, like, let's just eat. But anyway, in this case, obviously I am hungry, but I know that it comes in waves and I can ignore it. So it actually wasn't that bad. Honestly, I really expected myself to be struggling a whole lot more. But I think what also helps is that I planned it for a time where I wasn't going out with family or like being around friends and stuff, or when I was going to have plans, because then obviously people are going to be eating or talking about food, or maybe the plan is centered around food or whatever. And I was alone. So I had no one around me eating. I never saw anyone eating or anything like that. So I think that helped a lot. And I say this because that same night when my boyfriend came home, because I live with him, I did tell him that I was fasting just so that he knew not to offer me food, you know? But yeah, he like, I still made sure that he was going to eat. So I actually did ask him, like, what are you going to have? Just to make sure that he was eating, because I also didn't want him to just have a sandwich just because I'm not eating or whatever. So he did still make himself like a proper meal, but I'm not going to lie, in him like telling me what he's going to eat or me asking him what he's going to eat and me thinking about him eating and stuff, that was a little bit more difficult to deal with. Like the idea that I wasn't going to eat. And for some reason, like the people closest to me do know this. I get excited when it comes to like eating meals, especially with family, I've noticed. Like I get excited to eat for eating meals on my own as well, but there's something about like eating a good dinner with your loved ones. I get so excited about it and it's actually quite a highlight in my day. And so I think one of the things that made this difficult was I was actually having FOMO. Like I was like, oh, he's gonna get to have this nice meal and I'm not gonna be a part of it. So I think that is part of why I struggled in that moment. Because when he was eating, like I wasn't feeling hungry. Like I know that a part of why people eating around you is bad is because like when you smell the food, that also makes you more hungry. And it starts activating your digestive system. Literally, like when you see food, when you smell food, that's literally it starts activating your digestive system. So I thought that that was going to be a big issue, but it actually wasn't even the feeling of me like it wasn't my stomach grumbling and me like wanting to eat that made it so hard. It was literally just like, man, like I want to eat good food right now. You know what I mean? Maybe it's just because it was the first day that it wasn't that bad. But yeah, it wasn't too bad. And the night was honestly like the toughest part of that day. One thing I can say is that I'm glad I didn't make it a thing where I ate breakfast and then started fasting. Like I started from the beginning of the day not eating, because I think also if you eat a meal and then stop eating, I think it's a lot more difficult for your body to like, I don't know, there's something about like not eating from the previous night that makes it easier to not eat the next day almost. It's like you already haven't eaten the whole night. You know what I mean? And then it's like you've already gone through a few hours of the fast. So you're kind of okay. I feel like it would have been a lot harder if I started the fast at like 12 p.m. You know what I mean? And then what made me give up was the next morning. So now this was at like the 33-hour, 34-hour point. I was exhausted, but that wasn't the worst part. Like it was just weird. Usually most mornings I get up at like 7, maybe just before that. Um, and I start my day and I'm like quite easy to wake up at that time. If I have to wake up before that though, it's a different story. But you know, usually most mornings it's not that difficult for me to get up and I get up quite quickly and sometimes even I want to sleep in but I'm awake so I just get up. But that day, I just wanted to sleep. Like I feel like I could have just slept that whole day. But what got me up and what like eventually forced me to wake up and start doing things was I was like sweating and shaking. Yeah, it was not okay. And it almost felt the same as like when you're going to throw up. Like you get all your heart's beating, you're sweating, you're hot and you feel kind of weak, you know? It was starting to feel like that. So I actually got myself up because I thought, oh my word, like what if that is what's going to happen? But I almost felt like that can't happen because I haven't eaten. What the fuck am I going to throw up? But then I Googled and it actually made sense. Their answer, it was like, at this point, your body is a bit more stressed. Um, and autophagy is starting and it's like nearing its peak. So your body is like going through changes to like accommodate this, you know? But Okay, there were a few reasons why I didn't just push through that. So, firstly, that was like really overwhelming and I hated it. Like, I couldn't walk. Like, I could, but it wasn't as easy as usual, you know? Like, oh no, I felt so weak and yeah, it wasn't a great experience, I'm not gonna lie. But because it was my first time, I was like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna eat now. Now I know what to expect. So if I really do want to push through one day, I know what to expect, you know? And maybe I can like better the experience. Like maybe I'll prepare some like electrolyte water, so water with like lemon juice and salt, so that I can hydrate myself and maybe that'll help me feel better. I don't know. That's one thing that I just came up with that maybe could help the experience. The one thing was that it was my first time and I was like, you know what, 36 hours is a good starting point. Um but also I've just stopped taking the pill. Maybe well at this point it's like 2 months ago, but at that point it was like maybe just over a month. Um And so obviously my hormones are still adjusting, which means that they are not regulated, but I'll get into my whole experience with getting off the pill another day. And I actually heard that when your hormones aren't regulated as a woman, you shouldn't skip meals. Especially because your body needs the protein to make these hormones and everything. Um, so when this happened and I realized like I'm struggling physically, I was like, you know what? It is actually probably best that I eat something now because I also don't really want to mess up my hormones even more. So that was part of the reason that I just kept it to 36 hours. Um, and yes, it was very motivated by the fact that I did not feel okay, but I do think it was the best decision, taking other things into account as well. And then to break my fast, I didn't like dive into very fibrous foods because that's not very good. It can overwhelm your system and it can just not be very good. And what I mean by that is, well, from my understanding, doing that, it'll just fuck up your digestion. Like your stomach isn't used to digesting things at this point. So when you put something that's like really fibrous or like relatively difficult to digest, you might not digest it very well. You might have stomach issues, whatever. So I didn't want that to happen. So I started with yogurt and then I made myself a smoothie. It was actually so good. Like I didn't plan on making a smoothie, so I actually didn't stock up things to make a smoothie this day, but I was like, fuck, like I need to have something and I don't want to have bread or whatever. So I had apples, bananas, and carrots. Oh no, I actually didn't have apples. I wanted to make a smoothie like that, but I realized I didn't have apples. So I Googled what will the combination of banana, carrots, and cinnamon taste like in a smoothie, and it said it would taste like carrot cake. So I was like, okay, I'll try it, and it was actually really good. I did two bananas, one carrot, and some cinnamon. Really good, actually, and yeah, it felt like it was a good way to break the fast. Like I was getting in good nutrients, and starting to get a little bit more fiber in, but not a lot because it was obviously broken down already. That was my first smoothie I've ever made, so that was really cool. Yeah, and I highly recommend. Well, I recommend starting it like that because it worked for me, but honestly, I can't say that it's better than anything else because I didn't even try having bread or anything like that. I was too scared. So, yeah, but I must say something I was worried about was that I started with dairy. I thought that was going to be bad because of the lactose, but I was actually okay. Oh, now that I think about it, I did kind of have the shits after the smoothie. So maybe that has to do with the fact that I had dairy. I thought it was just like, my stomach's going. Like my digestive system has finally started up again, so I'm like releasing the things from the night before the fast started. So I thought it was that, but maybe it was a bit fucked up because of the dairy. I'm only realizing this now, but I'll never know until I do it again. So we'll see. um, but yeah, honestly, after I had the yogurt, I was starting to feel a bit better already. Like within an hour, I started to feel a bit better. And then the smoothie really made me feel a lot better. And then after that, I was eating normal food after that. I ate a lot actually that day. I was so excited to eat again. But, something I learned from the fasting was how I really do base what I do in a day off of my meal times. like I remember thinking I was busy because I also made sure to keep myself busy. I was busy planning a poster, I think, for one of the research symposiums I went to yesterday. But anyway, so I made sure to be doing that during the fast, and I had a lot of other things planned just in case. Um, because I think if you're bored, it'll also make you want to eat more. So I made sure to keep myself busy, and I remember I was busy planning my poster, and it was nearing 12 o'clock. So I remember wanting to carry on, but I was like, maybe I shouldn't because if I get too into it, then it's going to go into lunch and then I'm going to mess up the whole thing. And I was like, oh, wait, but I'm not going to eat. I may as well just carry on. And I realized how much of my day I actually do structure around meal times and how much meal times actually, like, my day revolves around meal times, which is, I think it makes sense actually. It was just cool to notice. I don't think it's something that's weird or bad, but it was cool to notice that. One thing I do regret though, I guess it's because my intention was different. So my intention going into this was cleansing. But something I was really hoping for my first time fasting was I wanted it to also be a spiritual experience. I wanted to do a lot of meditation, a lot of journaling, a lot of internal work. Um, and I didn't. I really didn't. But I guess it makes sense because my intention wasn't that. My intention was cleansing. Like I fully just wanted to get my body into autophagy mode and allow for it to cleanse things. Um, so maybe it is just because of that, and I shouldn't be so hard on myself because I don't know. Afterwards, I felt like I missed an opportunity because I didn't do any meditation, and it's because I was planning on doing it on the second day, and obviously the second day didn't really happen. You must look at my previous video because I do mention why intention is so important with this. You don't want it to be something toxic. We're not starving ourselves here, so yeah. This time I would prepare a lot more for the more tougher hours of the fast, and I'll do a lot more research into how you can prepare for that. But yeah, that's my experience, and since then I feel like I haven't been as mindless when I'm eating. Like every time I eat now, it's like I'm a little bit more grateful because to be honest, I've always been grateful when I have a meal. I always try to make myself remember to be grateful while I'm eating. So it's not like I have always lacked the gratitude, but I can feel that there's like a little bit more now when I eat. And I notice the power that my meals have in energizing my body. I do recommend trying this and definitely go watch the other video for more tips. Otherwise, if you have any other questions, I will be willing to answer them in the comment section below. It was an experience. Thank you so much for listening to today's Pillow Talk episode. If you have any thoughts, please comment them down below. I want this to be a conversation, like a sleepover. I love you so much. Bye.